Hello, everyone. This is Eleanor Rigby. I was sitting here in my favorite armchair this morning, just running my fingers over the edges of this small, tarnished silver locket. It hasn't been opened in years because the hinge is rusted shut, but I don't need to see what's inside to know every curve of the photograph tucked behind the glass. It's a picture of Thomas and me on the day he came home from the service in 1946. We were so young. I had these curls that wouldn't stay put, and he had a look in his eyes like he could conquer the world with nothing but a smile and a hand-me-down suit. Looking at that photo, it hits me how fast the decades have slipped through my fingers, like sand at the beach. When you're 20, you think you have all the time in the world to get things right. When you're 94, you realize that life isn't made of years. It's made of the choices you made yesterday and the things you should have stopped doing a long time ago. If I hadn't learned the hard way how to let go of the things, that didn't matter. I would have lost Thomas and I would have lost myself. I would have ended up a very lonely woman. Before I tell you this story, please subscribe. I want to pass this wisdom down before I'm gone so you don't make the same mistakes I did. I want you to have the life I eventually found, not the one I almost ruined. You see, back in the late 50s, Thomas and I hit a wall. We had been married for 12 years. We had the house with the white trim, and we had two beautiful children on the outside. We looked like the picture of the American dream you'd see in a magazine, but inside that house, it was cold, I was bitter, and he was tired. I remember one Tuesday evening. It was raining, a dull, gray October rain, and I was in the kitchen scrubbing a pot. Thomas came home from work, and he didn't even hang up his coat before I started on him. I complained about the leaky faucet, I complained about the neighbors, and I complained that he was 10 minutes late. He stood there just dripping water onto the linoleum, and he looked at me with a sadness that was heavier than any anger. He said, "Eleanor, when did you stop looking for the good in me?" I didn't have an answer. I was too busy holding on to my pride. It took me another 30 years and a lot of heartache to realize that my life was being drained by habits I thought were protecting me, but were actually isolating me. Experience has taught me that there are 7 things you must stop doing before the clock runs out. If you stop them now, your life will transform. If you don't, you'll wake up at 94 wondering where all the joy went. The first thing you must stop doing is living for the one day. When we were young, Thomas and I were always waiting. We'll be happy once the mortgage is paid. We'll travel once the kids are out of school. We'll be intimate again once the stress of work dies down. We were treating our present like a waiting room for a future that wasn't guaranteed. In all my 94 years, I've learned that one day is a mirage. It keeps moving further away the closer you get to it. We wasted so much time being content with being miserable because we thought happiness was a destination we'd eventually arrive at. It's not. It's the air you breathe right now. The second thing is you have to stop trying to win every argument. I can still hear the sound of our voices echoing in that small hallway in 1964. We were fighting about something so trivial. I think it was about how much he spent on a set of new tires. I wanted to be right. I wanted him to admit he was wrong. I pushed and I prodded until he finally just walked out the door and sat in the car for 3 hours. I won the argument, but I felt like a loser. When you're 94, you don't remember who was right about the tires or the grocery bill. You remember the silence that followed the fight. You remember the distance it created. Stop needing to be right. Start needing to be connected. Third, stop comparing your life to the people next door. Back then, it was the neighbors with their new Cadillac or their fancy television. Today, I see young people looking at their little screens and feeling like they aren't enough because someone else seems to have more. Let me tell you the truth. Behind those closed doors, everyone is struggling with something. I promise you, that neighbor with the shiny car was likely drowning in debt or crying themselves to sleep just like anyone else. When you compare, you're comparing your behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. It's a thief of joy, and it's a waste of the precious life you were given. Fourth, you must stop holding on to old grudges. This was the hardest one for me. My sister and I didn't speak for 5 years because of a comment she made at our mother's funeral. 5 years of birthdays, Christmases, and summer picnics where we sat in the same room and acted like strangers. It wasn't until she got sick that I realized how much time I had thrown away over a few words spoken in grief. Forgiveness isn't about saying what they did was okay. It's about deciding that you aren't going to carry the weight of it anymore. My late husband used to say that holding a grudge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. He was right. Empty your pockets of those heavy stones while you still have the strength to drop them. Fifth, stop neglecting the small gestures. We think love is the big anniversary trips or the expensive jewelry. It's not. It's the way Thomas would always leave the last bite of his toast for me because he knew I liked the crust. It's the way he'd squeeze my hand 3 times when we were walking. A secret code for I love you that we started in 1948. We stopped doing those things during our cold years, and that's when the foundation started to crumble. We thought we didn't need the small things because we had the big things. But life is made of small things. If you stop the small gestures, the big ones won't be enough to save you. Sixth, stop being afraid of being vulnerable. I spent so much of my life trying to be the strong one. I thought that if I showed my fear or my sadness, I would be a burden. I kept my worries about our finances and my health bottled up inside. It made me a hard woman to live with. It wasn't until Thomas found me crying in the laundry room one afternoon that I finally let the walls down. He didn't think I was weak. He felt honored that I finally let him in. Young people today might not understand this, but being tough is a lonely way to live. Real strength is having the courage to say, I'm scared or I need you. And finally, the seventh thing, stop taking your health and your body for granted. I know, you've heard it 1,000 times, but listen to an old soul who can't walk to the mailbox without catching her breath. I spent years worrying about how I looked in a bathing suit, or if my hair was turning gray too fast. What a waste of energy. I wish I could go back and tell that girl in the 1970s to just enjoy the fact that her legs could run, that her eyes could see the sunset, and that her heart was beating strong. Don't wait until your body starts to fail you to appreciate the miracle that it is. Eat the cake, take the walk, and stop criticizing the only vessel you have for this journey. You have to understand that love isn't a feeling you have. It's a decision you make every morning. When Thomas and I were in our 70s, we'd sit on the porch and watch the fireflies. One night, he took my hand. His skin was like parchment by then, and he said, Eleanor, I'm glad we didn't quit when it was hard. I'm glad we stopped being fools. That stayed with me. We almost quit so many times. We almost let the bitterness win. But we chose to stay. We chose to sacrifice our pride for the sake of our history. Modern dating seems so fast, so disposable. If something is broken, people just want to throw it away and get a new one. But the most beautiful things in my home are the ones that have been repaired. The table with the wood glue in the legs, the quilt with the patches, those are the pieces with the stories. A marriage is the same way. It's the mending that makes it valuable. It's the loyalty that gives it soul. Patience isn't just waiting, it's the attitude you have while you're waiting for the storm to pass. I look at the world now, and it's so loud. Everyone is in such a hurry to get nowhere. I want to tell you to slow down. Think about that. Truly think about it. What are you rushing toward? The end comes for us all, whether we're ready or not. The only thing that will matter when you're lying where I am, looking back on 90 some years, is how well you loved and how much peace you kept in your heart. I promise you, if you stop these 7 things today, you will find a clarity you've never known. You'll see the people in your life are the treasures they are. You won't wake up with the what ifs and the if onlys that haunt so many people in their final years. I wish for you a life that is messy but honest. I wish for you a love that is tired but resilient. I wish for you the wisdom to stop doing the things that don't matter so you can start doing the things that do. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was the hardest work of my life to change my ways, but it was the only work that truly counted. Thanks for listening to An Old Soul. Subscribe, share this with someone you love, and cherish them while they are here. Don't wait until the hinge is rusted shut to remember what's inside. The locket? Would you like me to write a follow-up script focusing on a specific era, such as Eleanor's life during the 1940s or 70s?